This is Coach Lee, and you're listening to the Dore Report.
Welcome back into the Dore Report and welcome into episode 344 on an icy cold Tuesday evening, December 2nd, 2025. Winter is here in Nashville, Tennessee. I will tell you, it's been a relatively mild November. It's coming back with a vengeance. It's cold.
Yeah.
Here at the Dore Report, we are presented by 615 Collectibles. If you're into sports cards or sports memorabilia, check out 615 Collectibles on eBay. Items include NFL team packs, graded cards, individual cards, and more. Shipping is always fast and free. Next up, people know the rhythm now. Maybe I should start doing these at different times and just inserting the ad read. But
dude, you didn't introduce me, dude. I didn't do my signature I didn't do my signature fist bump.
I am Will Byrum. Joined as always by my co-host, Trevor Hulan.
There we go.
A.K.A. Hack Squat Jim Duggan. Sorry, I'm a little thrown off. We have been discussing a lot of things that we will get to on this episode 344. It's going to be a beefy one.
Yeah.
Get that over-under out of the way early. It's going to be beefy.
Over under 2 hours.
It's I'm going to go with an hour 40. So I'm going to go under the 2 hours.
Okay, so we'll set the line at like an hour 40 then, or hour 45. I'm going to go over.
Okay. It's going to be close. We don't have a game to preview. That's the main reason, but we have a ton to discuss on episode 344. Before we get into all that, we get the Rhoback ad read, as I forgot to introduce this at the beginning, but here we are. The Rhoback ad read, Rhoback activewear. There's only one way to describe Rhoback: best fit, best feel. For those who aren't familiar with Rhoback, they are completely changing the game with their incredibly comfortable activewear. Rhoback has released so many items within their newly licensed game day collection, and it's our favorite. With novel polo designs and clean hoodie and quarter zip designs for some of your favorite schools, it's definitely worth checking out. Nobody else in the market is pairing these levels of custom designs with this quality of activewear. Rhoback's everyday shorts or their Delta performance pants are the perfect pairing as well. They're both super comfortable, have an elastic waistband, and great fabric that is made to have the appearance of a nice short look, but the comfort for a day on the move. If you need to move around, it's got the comfort for that. Rhoback has also been proudly leading the NIL charge, having signed partnerships with multiple college football stars, both past and present, and are becoming the go-to brand for college athletes across the country. You can use code VAN20, that is VAN20, on Rhoback.com for a generous, 20% off for all new customers. That's spelled Rhoback, RHOBACK.com. That's 20% off all performance polo shorts and more with code VAN20. We also have the NIL store, nil.store/DoreReport15. Check out the NIL store. Use code DoreReport15 for 15% off your entire order. They have some great merch across all sports. They've got Tyler Tanner, Diego Pavi, Eli Stowers, Junior Sherrill, and many more Vanderbilt stars. So check out nil.store/DoreReport15 and get some merch from your favorite Vanderbilt athletes. Trevor, forgot to introduce this at the beginning, but that's because we're thrown off because we've been discussing quite a bit. As you good?
Yo, my allergies have been killing me. I've been popping Zyrtex like they're candy. So if I sound stuffed up and I cough a little bit, I do want to apologize.
It's part of that cold weather that I mentioned earlier when I forgot to mention our names. Me and Trevor have been in deep discussion about a lot of things surrounding Vanderbilt athletics. It's not just one thing. It's not just the CFP rankings. There's a lot of things going on around Vanderbilt athletics right now. Of course, me and Trevor are going to discuss the CFP rankings in segment 1. Then we're going to get to the biggest commit in the history of Vanderbilt football, made official just about 30 minutes before we started recording this episode. That is Jared Curtis. Me and Trevor are going to talk about that for a bit, what it means for the program, kind of what went down today, and how long that our boy Alex Kerbagov has been on top of this scoop, and how other people and other sites and other things, regardless of where it is, have claimed to be the first to report or the first of things. All of that is untrue.
Yeah.
The first to report this and the first person on this was Alex Kurbagov of the DoreReport.com.
Yeah.
If you wanted to know that this was on the horizon and this was something that was happening, Alex had this a month ago?
Probably more, close to 2 months.
Yeah, probably more than
and
that.
got made this, and we'll get into it, but I can't help but start this out by saying nobody deserves their flowers more than Alex Kurbagov. Alex got made fun of for a long time for reporting this. Got made fun of by other people within the local media, by the Vanderbilt fan base, by other media members of other teams and other fans of other teams, not just on Twitter, but on message boards. And he was on it the whole time. And he never
wavered,
never flaked, stood on business, trusted his sources. Nobody, and I mean this, nobody is a harder worker and is better at their job than Alex Kurbagov. Alex Kurbagov is the best Vandy sports insider there is, and it's not close. And if you doubt that, go on the DoreReport.com, use one of the promo codes. You don't even have to pay full price. Go look at his history. He does not miss.
The DoreReport.com, not just DoreReport.com. The DoreReport.com. He also was one of the first people in the Clark Lea extension as well.
Yeah.
And got kind of clowned while other things were reporting that, there were all these things going on and they were butchering the process and different things. Alex never wavered on that one either.
Yeah, Alex was like, hey, yeah, I know some things are being reported. This is true. This isn't true. It's happening. And he got clowned for it. And he was right. He was right the whole time.
He was right the whole time, and it was right on the DoreReport.com on our message board behind closed doors the entire time. On top of that news, we also have kind of thrown to the wayside in this intro a lot more than I would have expected. The recap of the Vanderbilt-Tennessee football game where the Vanderbilt Commodores defeated the Tennessee Volunteers 45-24 in Neyland Stadium. Me and Trevor will recap that game, give a little insight into the stats, and give our 3 key takeaways from that one. Then we'll hit the TDR Cocktail Break, go into Diego Pavia's Heisman campaign that Vanderbilt has been pushing very heavily. And then we will get to a little bit of basketball talk because the Vanderbilt Commodores are hooping.
Yeah.
Mark Byington right now, and that's kind of being pushed to the side just because of what football's doing right now. But people need to be paying attention to this basketball team right now. And then we'll get to premium message board questions. We have a locked and loaded and beefy episode 344 here.
You know what we didn't even mention in that too? The Clark Lea extension.
The Clark Lea extension. Yeah, that's
it is, guys.
Since then.
This might be the longest episode in Vandy football history, or the Dore Report history. Sorry, I can't even think right now.
Yeah, let me.
This is going to be over 2 hours long, Will.
We'll see.
That hour 40 is getting smashed to hell and back.
We will see. But before we get into all that and much more, well, Trevor, actually, before I do that little read, let's get a vibe check right now because there's some conflicting vibes going around right now with the college football playoff, as well as then you're coming off a Tennessee victory. I mean, I need to know your vibe check.
Dude, after what I've experienced this weekend, there's nothing that could dampen my vibes. I am not like I said last week and the week before that, I'm not disappointed in Vanderbilt athletics whatsoever. I'm disappointed in the numbnuts that for some reason have been elected to determine the college football playoff. That's out of Vanderbilt's control. There's nothing they could do about it. Regardless, y'all, I'd be lying if I said I wasn't a 10 out of 10 and the vibes and where Vanderbilt football is, where Vanderbilt football is headed, and Vanderbilt basketball. And then if we even want to talk about the Vandy boys having the #1 high school class, it is impossible not to be a 10 out of 10 excited about the state of Vanderbilt athletics. We're truly living in historic times.
We said it before. We'll continue to say it. The revolution is/will be televised. It used to be will be televised.
It's on TV right now.
Being televised.
It's on TV right now.
It's one thing. TDR does not lie. But before we get into all that and much more, we are now a part of the On3 Publisher Network. Visit thedoreport.com today and subscribe to a monthly or annual premium membership and support TDR for access to premium content, as well as our premium message board behind closed doors. If you're looking for a way to support TDR, that is the best way to possibly do it.
Mm-hmm.
The message board right now is absolutely awesome. The community we've created, you're missing out if you're a diehard Vanderbilt fan and not subscribed to thedoreport.com. Also, don't forget to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at the Dore Report. Like us on Facebook. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel. That helps us grow in all aspects. Our podcast is available on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, and Google Podcasts. And while you're at it, give our podcast 5 stars and a review on Spotify or iTunes. Also, if you listen on Spotify, please follow us on Spotify. I got a notification. I didn't even know this was a thing, that based on our listener numbers on Spotify, that we don't have enough followers. People are just listening and not following. Spotify wanted to inform me via email of that we don't have the proper numbers based on their algorithm. We have too many listeners, not enough followers on Spotify. So follow us on Spotify, I guess.
Yeah, guys, we're asking. Hey, we
It's
realize
free.
we realize we're asking a lot of you right now, but we're not asking you to spend a ton of money. Just a little bit of
Well,
money.
Spotify, to follow us on Spotify
yeah,
and subscribe to YouTube costs $0.
$0. But subscribe to the DoreReport.com does cost a pretty penny. However, we promise it will be worth your
It
while.
is worth it.
If you were on it for just today, you're like, damn, yeah, this is worth the price of admission.
If you've been a subscriber for the last couple months, it has been well worth it, because you have had inside scoops that nobody else has had, or people have been calling you foolish, and you've seen these dumb trolls on Twitter saying things. You would have had an ace in your sleeve.
Yeah.
You would have known what's actually going on behind the scenes if you were subscribed to Behind Closed Doors. So it is now time for segment 1.
Future's now, old man.
Welcome back into episode 344 of the Dore Report. We have a lot to get to in segment 1 here, so we're just going to dive right in. First up, the thing we forgot to mention in the intro until Trevor pointed it out, or I forgot to mention in the intro until Trevor pointed it out, the Clark Lea extension. Let's get to that. Number 1, announced, I believe, on Friday
Yes, sir.
of last week, a 6-year extension for head coach Clark Lea. So, hell of a job by the administration getting that done. Locking up a guy that 100% deserves a large contract extension. Clark Lea, that had to be done. That's the first domino. That was just, you had to get him locked up. A lot of larger, we'll say, podcasts or accounts or different things that I appeared as a guest on, or just one sticks out in my mind particularly, that was a Texas podcast. I'm not going to name them, that had me on and asked me a question about that. And I said, I'm not trying to sound like this, but no, Clark Lea's not going anywhere. And then once I proceeded to get off, they proceeded to kind of laugh at me and chuckle at me and like, yeah, I've heard that story before. And then the money starts coming in and da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Well, guess who knew what they were talking about? Unlike the random Texas podcast that has no sources or affiliation. Guess who actually knew what was going on behind the scenes? Don't listen to about 90 to 95% of the podcasts and accounts on Twitter.
Yeah.
That's your lesson from this ultimately regarding Vanderbilt. They just want to talk shit. And you are threatening the powers that be as a Vanderbilt athletic department right now. So you're feeling this visceral hatred that you've never experienced before.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a blessing.
Yeah.
But shout out to Candace Story-Lee, shout out to Daniel Diermeyer, everybody else associated with this, a 6-year extension for Clark Lea. Well-deserved.
Yeah.
Greatest season in the history of Vanderbilt football. Locked him up. He's not going to Penn State. He ain't leaving for LSU like Lane Kiffin. Clark Lea is Vanderbilt's guy, and they got him locked up. And then you've seen the dominoes that have fallen very quickly behind him, as well as a dominant victory over Tennessee. So that's a giant weight off the shoulders of a lot of Vanderbilt fans out there, knowing that Clark Lea is staying. He's here to stay. He's Vanderbilt's guy. I cannot overemphasize how important that was for Vanderbilt football to lock Clark Lea up for the foreseeable future, in all honesty.
Yeah. Well, not only is it nice to have, not nice, but a blessing to have Clark Lea back, but I think also, too, as if the evidence wasn't like in your face enough, what a testament to Vanderbilt University and this athletic department showing we are committed to football. I think whenever you look at not just the Clark Lea extension, we don't know the details in terms of how significant of a pay bump he got. I would imagine it was large. Not only is that a sign to Vanderbilt fans, hey, we are committed to football, but also coming through and making good on Clark Lea's request to have a new football a new football facility that is football only. Football will no longer be operating out of Magoogan. They will have their own dedicated building, which is something that Clark Lea has really made evident as like what he wants for the past year, has like really vocalized that, said, hey, if we're going to be serious about football and we're going to be serious about being a winning program, I need this. I need a football facility and I need NIL investment from our donors. And he's gotten both. So what a testament to not only lock up Clark Lea, but also to provide these facilities. Like, I know that in this era of the NIL arms race, that NIL matters the most. I'm not dismissing that whatsoever. But facilities also matter. And it's not a shot at Vanderbilt to say, like, even though they're doing really, really well in the NIL department, the facilities right now are still lacking, but hopefully it is changing. But I think getting a new football facility shows, hey, we're serious about football. Daniel Diermeyer is serious about football. Candace really is serious about football. And Vanderbilt fans for their entire lives have not had a program or an institution that has been serious about football, let alone sports in general. And now you have that. And so I think just capitalizing on that momentum is so huge. And I think, like you said, I don't know if you have anything else you want to say about Clark Lea. If you do, go ahead and stop me. But sort of transitioning into the dominoes that have fallen with Jared Curtis, like, this is what happens when you show a commitment to football, is the dominoes start to fall and you get somebody like Jared Curtis.
Yeah, I just think a lot of credit needs to be, of course, Candace Dore Lee receives a valid amount of credit, which she does deserve. You can have whatever opinions you want to have about, oh, she's not the whatever. There have been ADs in the past and a lot of different ADs and the time they didn't have an athletic department and different things. What Candace Dore Lee has accomplished as she's been AD is phenomenal. And a large portion of that, the person that doesn't receive enough credit is Daniel Diermeyer.
Totally. Yep.
He has made all of the difference in the world, having a chancellor that is committed to athletics, being the front porch of the university, being the representative, outward-facing point of the university. It is the greatest marketing tool you can possibly have of your university. And that's what it has finally been viewed as. Finally, Vanderbilt has commitment from the top down to football. And it's amazing what you were seeing across the board, that things are finally aligned. Football's incredible, having literally the greatest season in the history of the program. Basketball's a top 20 team, men's and women's. Baseball, honestly, might be the one trailing behind of all of the programs, and never in a million years could you have guessed as a Vanderbilt fan that you think that might be the lowest ranked team possibly right now is baseball.
It would, just in terms of in sheer momentum.
Yeah, the momentum of baseball is probably the lowest right now of all the programs. Just the commitment. And Daniel Diermeyer, I just don't want to lose sight of how much he has brought and allowed to happen. He's not the one making the day-to-day decisions, but he's not been a hindrance.
He's got to be the one to sign off.
He's got to be the one to sign off. And he's been a proponent of Vanderbilt athletics, when in the past every chancellor has been trying to get in the way of the success of Vanderbilt athletics at every single step. Finally, you have somebody committed to just saying, all right, do what you need to do. I'm committed to winning and putting a great brand on Vanderbilt athletics. We have such a unique opportunity as an elite private academic institution to also have elite athletics in an incredible city. Finally, someone sees the value in that.
Yeah.
Finally. So shout out to Candace Dore Lee, but I really want to hit on Daniel Diermeyer, because that's just not a name that most people talk about or discuss outside of really diehard Vanderbilt fans. So incredible job. Whatever they had to do to get the board of trustees on board, the Clark Lea extension lifted a lot of weight off the shoulders of a lot of Vanderbilt fans.
Yeah. And the final thing I want to say about that, about Candace Dore Lee and Diermeyer, is, like, I don't want to speak ill of the dead. David Williams was a good AD given the circumstances. And David Williams would have been an excellent AD if he had a chancellor that supported athletics the way that Daniel Diermeyer did or does. Zeppos was a travesty and should be in prison for crimes. But the way that Candace Dore Lee and Daniel Diermeyer have been able to strong arm people and boards in rooms that have been for 50, 60, 70 years so against athletics is simply amazing, and something that Vanderbilt fans should really be thankful for. And this will once again transition well into recruiting and tomorrow being signing day. But it's not, here's the beauty of it too, is it's not like this is a one-off. There's no reason to believe that this is a one-off, because whenever you look at what Vanderbilt's doing right now in high school recruiting, and tomorrow we'll expect a lot more names, and then as the portal opens up, this is something that's going to keep going. This is not a one-off like the Mason or Franklin years towards like, man, they had some good seasons, but it's like you're looking forward to the classes and the facilities and the donor buy-in, and you're like, I don't know about this. You're looking at Money in Bank right now, kids that are signing to Vanderbilt, the facilities that are being built, and you're like, damn, they might have something.
Yeah, it's the classic, and let's get to Jared Curtis now, because I think that's a great transition. Vanderbilt received today, and I want to read Jared Curtis's statement about it, because I really dislike how this news broke.
Yeah.
If I can be 100%.
It was a shame to Jared Curtis.
It was. And some of it was in different ways and how the news was broken. Jared Curtis, the biggest commitment in the history of Vanderbilt football, and not even close. Like it's true. Like Vanderbilt had not gotten a 5-star before. They'd gotten guys through the portal that were previously 5 stars. Keanu Coote, Prince Colley. Prince Colley was actually a really high 4-star. Keanu Coote was a 5-star. There are highly rated guys. Vanderbilt has never, ever gotten a guy of this caliber. Jared Curtis, 5-star plus quarterback, according to Rivals /On3's ratings. Basically, universally, according to others' composite ratings, the number 1 player across the board in the entire country. This is a completely different level of recruit. Flipped his commitment from Georgia to Vanderbilt. Incredible job by everyone involved in that. Whether it's current players, staff, admin, everyone involved in that. Incredible job. But the news broke today that Jared Curtis, according to Steve Wiltfong, had informed Georgia that he was decommitting and flipping his commitment. And then there were other people that put out graphics and different things that I have slight issues with how it was put out. I'm not sure it was laid out to Jared Curtis how that news was going to be broke. But I want to read Jared Curtis's statement in its entirety. And it's going to be a little lengthy, but I believe his words of his own writing deserve to be heard on this podcast. The number 1 quarterback in the country, the number 3 player nationally in Nashville Christian, staying home, anchoring down, committing to Vanderbilt. I cannot overstate how massive that is for Vanderbilt continuing the momentum after Diego Pavia. But I'm going to read what Jared Curtis put out via his Instagram and Twitter. In quote, "This morning, I was really disappointed to see some media put it out there that I flipped from Georgia to Vandy. I actually hadn't told anyone my final decision, not even my parents or agent. I wanted to talk to the coaches from both staffs after school and practices were over and have one last heart-to-heart with my family before making an announcement. Never had a chance, and that was really disappointing. I haven't said much the past couple months. Obviously, there's been a lot going on, but I just wanted to control what I could on the field and focus on winning another chip with my boys. And that's what we've been preparing to do on Thursday. I do love Georgia. I love the coaches and players there. They have been so good to me and my family. I know they would do everything to help me be successful. They have been the best program in the country for a reason. The past year, it's where I wanted to be and definitely where my parents have wanted me to go. That's part of what makes this so hard. You try to make everyone who has been good to you and done so much for you happy. And when you can't, it sucks. But I got to walk my path that feels right in my heart. At the end of the day, this has to be my decision. Being here in Nashville and seeing what Vandy has been doing this season has been amazing. And over the past few weeks, I felt more and more that I want to be a part of that, to be close to home, to play in front of my family and friends and be what I love to be, an underdog. I'm excited to be a Dore and excited to be a part of building something here at home with Coach Lea. When my mom drove me to my first quarterback lesson, she saw something in me before I ever saw it in myself. I just wanted to play football with my friends. My parents showed me it could be a path to college football. That's a pretty crazy thing coming from our small town. They knew staying at Nashville Christian was the right thing when I fought them about making the drive back and forth 2 hours each day. And when some of those big private football schools called us, we chose to stay at our little Christian school and do it our way. We chose the underdog. My parents showed me the underdog can be a winner. I can't wait to look up in the stands at First Bank Stadium and see the people that love me up there supporting me like they always do on Friday nights. But first, we got to get another W for NCS. Thank you to everyone that has been a part of this process. It hasn't been perfect. I'm certainly not, but this is my journey, and I'm going to keep doing the best I can, keeping my anchor down in Nashville. Jared. That just deserves to be read because that's the source. That's where all of this is from. I'm not gonna say anything that's gonna get TDR canceled or anything like that. I just think it's shitty how the news broke. It's the nature of college football. It's such a huge, so many eyes, so many impressions, so much attention on everything. But I really would have loved for Jared Curtis to be able to announce it in the way that he wanted to announce it.
Yeah.
And it's kind of disappointing because 20 years ago, Jared Curtis would have been able to announce it how he wanted to announce it. But that's not how things played out, unfortunately. But Jared Curtis is a Commodore, a massive get, continuing the momentum, national attention for Vanderbilt. And Trevor, the Revolution is being televised, as we've said, for multiple years on this podcast.
It continues to be televised. And, man, what a get. What a get for Vanderbilt. Like you said, according to On3, top 3 player in the nation, or at least a top 5 player in the nation.
Top 3.
Top 3.
Number one
he's
quarterback.
Number 3 overall, number 1 quarterback in the nation. It's the only thing that you could compare Jared Curtis to is, and I still think, and I love David Price, but you could say that this is the David Price of Vanderbilt football. And even then, I'm going to be honest, guys, I think this is a much bigger deal than David Price ever was. What this signifies is that Vanderbilt is a real player and a real contender in the college football landscape. And I think the dominoes that you will continue to see follow because of the Jared Curtis commitment and signing tomorrow morning is something that we've never seen before. And I want to stick on the topic of Jared Curtis, but whenever you are listening to this, if you're listening to this on Wednesday, whenever this is released, Wednesday, December 3rd, could shape out to be the biggest day in Vanderbilt recruiting history. Maybe one of the biggest days in Vanderbilt football history with what could follow.
And this is where college football has changed so dramatically with the transfer portal, but also in some ways it has remained somewhat the same. Vanderbilt has also had a commitment that has completely flown under the radar as a class of 2027 commit in Amari Sanders, the number 58 player in the nation, class of 2027.
Who Vanderbilt beat out
linebacker.
Texas for.
Just another incredible get. Also got a high 3-star wide receiver in the class of 2027, Jeremiah Douglas.
Sorry, Vanderbilt beat out Texas for Douglas. My apologies.
Yep. The funnier part to me is I put out a couple tweets today about like Vanderbilt 10-2 season, check mark. Clark Lea, extended, check mark. Number 1 quarterback in the country, check mark. Vanderbilt's here to stay. I did that in how I tweeted it. Not intentionally, but definitely intentionally, that I knew Georgia fans were going to get my mentions. The funnier part of how the replies went were, well, yeah, good luck next year. Best case 7-5 next year. Yeah, you're going to learn next year. I'm like, guys, Jared Curtis, kind of give it with a given that he's going to be the starter next year, I would assume. I'm like, I didn't reply to anybody because it was a bunch of nothing burner accounts and random ass dudes with 400 followers. But it was like, yeah, Vanderbilt is probably going to take a slight step back next year. But they're building for the future. They're going to have a true freshman 5-star quarterback. If they come out and go 7-5 with a true freshman quarterback and a redone offensive line, hold your freaking britches.
Yeah, holy shit. Yeah,
what's about to happen.
Then 2027, people are going to be
be
betting money for Vanderbilt to win the national title.
Yeah, it's just, yes, Vanderbilt is going to be slightly rebuilding next year. When you lose a Heisman front-runner quarterback along with a lot of other talented players, yeah, you're going to be slightly rebuilding. But what Vanderbilt is doing is not just rebuilding, retooling. right now. And that's something that just hasn't been in the cards for Vanderbilt in the past. And I think you're going to see a domino effect, like you said, with signing day tomorrow. But wishing nothing but the best for Jared Curtis. I reached out to him on Twitter. I doubt I'm going to receive a response because he's probably being inundated with DMs and everything at this point. I just said, sorry for how the news broke. I'm sorry that superseded how you wanted things to be announced. Absolutely. I feel for you. If you ever want to have a quick conversation with us on the Dore Report, we'd love to have you on to give your piece or whatever you want to say. So we'll see if he responds. I kind of doubt it. No offense to the kid. He's got a lot going on right now.
Yeah, he's probably got Pete Thamel in his DMs. He's got bigger fish to fry than
way
us.
Bigger fish than us. We're tiny little guppies around here.
Now, I do want to stick on Jared Curtis for a little bit. I know that Vanderbilt fans, especially after Nate Bargatze on College Game Day, are very familiar with Jared Curtis. Like you said, 5-star quarterback, 5-star plus quarterback. If you haven't had a chance to watch any Jared Curtis tape, I would highly recommend you do so. I mean, hell, even if you have a chance to go watch him play in the state championship, I would actually really, really recommend you do
in Chattanooga.
In Chattanooga, yeah. Jared Curtis is a bigger in terms of his physicality.
6'4", 225 pounds.
He is a bigger, thicker. I hate to compare him to Diego Pavia because nobody's Diego Pavia. Nobody's ever going to be Diego Pavia. He is a bigger, thicker, Diego Pavia-esque quarterback with one of the craziest arms I've ever seen. If Tim Beck and Coach K and Clark Lea could build a football player in a lab that was designed for this offense and that could run this offense and could also expand this offense in terms of the downfield capabilities, I mean, it would be Jared Curtis. I don't think I don't want to put too high of an expectation on the kid, and I don't want to diminish at all what Diego Pavia has done. But if there was a guy to carry on the success that Diego Pavia has had, if you could build him in a lab, you build him like Jared Curtis would. And I'm not saying he's going to. I have no idea what he's going to be. But I'm saying just from a physicality standpoint, if there was a kid that you could create via a computer, he would look like Jared Curtis. He would run like Jared Curtis. He would throw like Jared Curtis. It's impossible not to be hyper excited about the type of prospect he is and how he can function within this Vanderbilt offense. Truly, I love Jack Elliott as a prospect. I really, really do. I remember, and I know I'm going to make this comparison is you can say more than anybody how much of the Jack Elliott train I've been on. I think that the kid's a stud. I think that he could run this Vanderbilt offense really well. Everything I thought that Jack Elliott could do, I think 10, 20, 30x Jared Curtis could do.
He's a different level of talent. I mean, no offense. There's no offense to Jack Elliott.
No offense to Jack Elliott. No offense to Muschamp. Please, if you rock the black and gold, I would truly die for you. I don't care if you're Diego Pavia. I don't give a shit if you're a PWO. I would die for you. But Jared Curtis is different. I mean, it's hard to put into words what his skill set could do for Vanderbilt football.
Yeah, and now that we've, drooled over Jared Curtis for a second, I do have to throw in a couple caveats here, and then we'll move on to the college football playoff rankings. Jared Curtis is playing not at a high level of football in the state of Tennessee.
Yeah, he's true.
Playing teams like DCA, for example, is on his schedule. I grew up going to games with my dad and my grandfather, 2 DCA games. That's not a high level of football. The difference is with modern recruiting rankings, you don't get a 5-star plus ranking if you haven't gone to these camps and just dominated. That's the difference.
Yeah.
It's people, there is going to be a big adjustment for Jared Curtis.
Yeah.
There is going to be. And I hope I'm wrong about this. There's going to be a learning curve if he's starting as a true freshman. The game's going to be faster.
Yeah.
It is. I mean, there's going to be a lot more going on. Vanderbilt will have theoretically really good playmakers returning next year, but they don't have elite playmakers returning next year. They're going to lose a lot of their offensive line. They need to rebuild the offensive line just like they did last year. That's where I was seeing tweets and different narratives about Vanderbilt's losing 4 of their offensive linemen. Well, people tend to forget they lost that last year and built it through the portal with a better offensive line. People forget about this thing called the transfer portal, where Vanderbilt can rebuild, especially if you're blocking for a guy like Jared Curtis in this offense. So Jared Curtis is facing a lower level of competition. There is going to be a learning curve. He's not going to step in and be Diego Pavi.
No,
That's the part that you're going to have to give grace to a true freshman quarterback coming in and being the leader of this team. But I think he has the capability, if he can grow within this Tim Beck offense, of being an absolutely elite quarterback and top tier in the SEC quarterback in the same way Diego Pavi does. Nobody's going to be Diego Pavi.
Nobody will ever be Diego Pavi.
He is a unique player that changed everything. But Jared Curtis has all the tools to not just be what Diego Pavi is, but also as I'm saying that, I'm disgusted.
I know it's hard.
I hope everyone knows what I mean.
Yeah, please know what we say. Or what we mean.
But also on top of that, has the ability to develop into a guy that's like the number 1 pick in the draft. That kind of talent. He has the physical tools capable of being the number 1 overall selection in the NFL draft if things develop the right way. So Jared Curtis is coming in. What a time to be a Dore.
Yeah.
Keep your eye on recruiting tomorrow or today when you're listening to this. We need to move to the CFP rankings. One more thing to say.
The only thing I want to say is I want to reiterate what you said tomorrow. Early signing day. Please, if you haven't already checked the board, Alex has went ahead and given some names that he expects Vanderbilt or feels really, really good about Vanderbilt landing. Blake Stewart, Gooden.
Don't give them all away.
I know, but those are like public knowledge. That's not like, oh, you need to be on the board to know that. Like you could people just know that. However, the name that I omitted, there is one name in particular that Vanderbilt fans are familiar with that Vanderbilt is back in the running for. Please check the board.
Snip, snap.
Please
some
check
could
the
say.
board on that.
So let's get to the college football playoff rankings. I feel like, do you want to do college football playoff rankings right after the TDR cocktail break, or do you want to do it right now?
Let's just go with it now.
Okay, I was going to say, because we're going to do one of either the college football playoff rankings after or the Tennessee recap.
I'd rather just go ahead and get this shit over with.
So we're going to do the Tennessee recap after the TDR cocktail break, really going out of order with how we normally do things. But there's a lot on the other fronts outside of the game that was just played, which was a gigantic victory for Vanderbilt. But the latest college football playoff rankings have come out. And for the, 3rd straight week, Vanderbilt remains at number 14 in the college football playoff rankings. And I really wish that I had the energy or I had the desire more than the energy to go off on this large rant and tangent that I really want to go on. And maybe I will. We're going to see where this takes me.
Yeah.
Had a long day of work. Vanderbilt stays at number 14, jumped by Texas, who moved to number 13. Granted, Texas beat Texas A&M, a really good victory, great victory over an undefeated team. Texas A&M, granted, has played freaking nobody in the SEC. But the logic utilized is basically that Texas beat Vanderbilt head-to-head. That's the logic. And you know what? To a certain extent, now I think that 3 losses should weigh more heavily than 2 losses. To a certain extent, beating a team by 3 at home for Texas, that head-to-head should matter. I wouldn't be how I am if it mattered throughout the rankings.
Yeah.
If there was consistent logic utilized throughout the rankings. But it seems like, as I've ranted about week after week, that the committee utilizes logic and metrics and different forms of ranking these teams when it's convenient for them to explain why, but not consistently utilized. It depends on the logo that's on your fucking helmet. Let's just call it what it is. It is about the logo that is on your helmet. It is not about evaluating resumes objectively. It is about the logo on your helmet, because Vanderbilt's jumped by Texas. Texas has the number 12 strength of record. Vanderbilt has the number 11 strength of record. Texas, granted, has the number 8 strength of schedule. Vanderbilt has number 22. In the FPI, Vanderbilt's number 14, Texas is number 13, which if you want me to get on my full rant, I think the committee's just basically looking at FPI as long as losses are relatively equal, and they're being lazy as hell. The main issue I have with Texas jumping Vanderbilt is if that is the case, then Miami should jump Notre Dame. There is zero logic that you can find that would make that otherwise untrue. Miami beat Notre Dame head-to-head. They have the exact same record. Notre Dame, number 13 in strength of record. Miami, number 14. So one behind each other, flipped. Exactly the same as Vanderbilt and Texas. At Vanderbilt at number 11, Texas at number 12. Exactly the same. The fact that Miami's sitting at number 12 and Notre Dame is sitting at number 10 is 100% endemic of, you can call it two things, either the Notre Dame brand bias, because Miami's a big brand, Notre Dame's a bigger brand, or you can just go to the fact that this is how you need to make your schedule. Just put your 2 toughest games, if possible, as your first and second games of the season, and then schedule an absolutely dog shit schedule the rest of the season. Just play fucking Syracuse, NC State, play the shittiest programs you possibly can the rest of the season, beat them, and you're going to be in the CFP. You are being penalized for having losses at midseason versus having losses outside of that. If you take a real step back, there is no way in hell Vanderbilt should be number 14 in these college football playoff rankings. It is a sham.
Yeah.
I cannot get over Notre Dame being where they are. That is the biggest sham and the largest disqualifier for the validity of this committee that I can possibly bring up. There is no coherent logic. You have a room full of guys that don't even know how to create a PDF on a computer ranking these teams that have been randomly appointed as ADs of random programs that have other shit on their minds. And it is a shame what is happening in these rankings. And the reason I bring up other schools is I don't want people just thinking that I'm like, oh, Vanderbilt's gotten screwed. Well, I'm a Vanderbilt homer. Well, yes, of course I have bias towards Vanderbilt. But to deny that it's about the brand that you're wearing, you're just an idiot.
Yeah.
If you don't think brand is playing heavily into this, because if you really want to get into things and like deeply into it, they're not even utilizing strength of record, which they talked about all off season. They're not utilizing that whatsoever. The head-to-head, they're just picking and choosing when it matters. It doesn't really matter how they're utilizing top 25 college football playoff ranked wins. It makes no sense how they're doing it. Vanderbilt just beat number 19 in the college football playoff rankings on the road by 21. Well, that team then drops out of the college football playoff rankings because Vanderbilt beat them. If Vanderbilt would have beat them by 3, then they would have remained in the college football playoff rankings. Vanderbilt would have a ranked win over a CFP ranked team. But they don't because Vanderbilt beat them so badly they dropped out of the rankings. Same with Missouri in a lot of capacities. Vanderbilt has no ranked wins over college football playoff ranked teams, but I believe they have, 5 ranked wins throughout the season?
That's correct.
I can't this is where I have issues with the ranking committee. I just want one piece of coherent ranking of how they're evaluating things that I can take and say, this is the main metric they're looking at. And the only thing that I can find right now is the FPI, which is the most flawed metric in all of college football, is the FPI rankings by ESPN. They're basically a brand reinforcer is all that FPI is. Correct me if I'm wrong. The FPI takes into account success the previous 4 seasons.
That is correct.
As part of their calculation. Penn State, I've got on this rant. I don't need to go on it again. Where teams are ranked that are sitting at 5 and 6, 6 and 6. It's insane. Everything about the college football rankings is nonsensical. It's illogical. I'm not even saying Vanderbilt should necessarily be in the top 10. That's I could make a big case for it, but that's not what I'm saying. You need to demand better from the committee. And you're not going crazy if you look at the rankings and say, what is this? What is going on? You're not crazy if you're saying that. Notre Dame is number 10 because Notre Dame's fucking Notre Dame. And there's no other way to evaluate. Notre Dame should not be in the college football playoff. They shouldn't be.
Yeah.
And that's my number one thing that gets me pissed off is Notre Dame should not be a top 10 team. And it is a black eye on college football that Notre Dame is ranked number 10.
Yeah. Well, I totally agree.
And then you're going to bump Bama up above Notre Dame.
That's what I was about to mention.
Just because you don't want to deal with having to bump them out if they lose in the SEC championship game. There's no actual measurable resume or metric utilized by Alabama sneaking by non-bowl eligible Auburn with an interim head coach to bump them up above Notre Dame, who blew out their Week 14 opponent. The reason they did that is to shield themselves and insulate themselves from criticism regarding conference championships. If you want to know these rankings are absolute bullshit, Bama jumping Notre Dame this week proves it. That's another one. That they did that not because of the results that changed on the field and what resume was changed on the field this past week. They did that so they wouldn't face as much criticism when they create their final rankings after the conference championship games. That's why they did it, because they're not going to bump a team out if they lose in the SEC championship game and they want a little wiggle room just in case BYU beats Texas Tech. That's the reason they did it. That's it.
That was the point that I was actually going to bring up was them. But no, dude, you go off that, dude. That was the point that I was going to bring up is if you wanted any more evidence into the hypocrisy, and I want to say Vandy fans, don't feel crazy. Don't feel like you have a tinfoil hat on and you're being some conspiracy theorist. Like, you're not. It is, and I'm glad you said it is so blatantly evident that it's a beauty pageant. It's a beauty pageant for the teams that have the logos that have mattered for all of college football or most of college football. That's all it is. The college football playoff is not about the most deserving teams. It is not about the best teams in the nation. It is about who is going to give ESPN the best ratings. That's what it's about. That is the whole reason we have a college football playoff rankings reveal, is because it doesn't matter who the best team is. You're not trying to hold suspense. Oh, did this team make it? Did this team make it? It's all about the ratings. It is all about lining ESPN's pockets. The AP poll doesn't have a reveal in which jacks up the Nielsen ratings. They just put it out in the paper the next day. They just tweet it out. They put it on apnews.com.
The NCAA tournament doesn't do week-by-week reveals of their tournament bracket.
The most that we get for the NCAA tournament is Lenardi's fucking plane that just pops up in the bottom of a corner.
They do bracketology, but we don't hear from the committee week after week. That's the difference.
We hear from Hunter Yurachek, the committee chairman, every single week. And what we do is we get Reese Davis and we get Kirk Herbstreit and we get all these other guys who are signed to CAA to lob up softball questions to Hunter Yurachek, who, are we sure he even watched college football this weekend whenever he went out and made the fucking worst hire of the cycle? He's had more time than anybody to make a competent hire. And he hires this bum from fucking Memphis that has FedEx money and is 6 games over 500 in the AC. Every year, they're projected to win the AAC, and they have never been able to do it. And Hunter Yurachek is so brain dead, he goes out and he hires that fucking guy. And that guy's in charge of the college football playoff committee. He is in charge of the brain trust that has been entrusted with ensuring that the best teams get into the college football playoff. It's a joke. We have let myself, who is the foremost nerd whenever it comes to analytics, we have let nerds come up with these theorems and these equations and these statistical models for college football. And we've given them to a bunch of old-ass dudes who can't tell their left from their right and said, hey, here's all these advanced numbers. And then we let these old dudes try and figure out what the hell they mean. when they can't even make competent coaching hires.
Yeah,
And we let them go and we say, hey, here's all these numbers. Here are all these factors that you don't understand what the hell they mean. Take this information and determine who the best teams are. It's like giving a caveman a calculator and telling him to do arithmetic. It's not possible. But you know what? We do it all for ratings. We do it because ESPN cares about the bottom line. They care about lining their pocket. They care about what the Nielsen rating says every week. And they look at it and they say, like you said, not who's the most deserving. Who's going to give us the biggest TV ratings? What fan bases are going to travel to these neutral sites the most? What fan bases are going to travel to these opposing campuses the most? What's going to give us the most pleasant viewing experience for a TV audience? That's what matters. It's a reality TV show, and it's a hard pill to swallow. But whenever you take it down, you see it clearly. It's a reality TV show. This is what the beautiful sport of college football has been absolved to, is a beauty pageant.
Well, the most frustrating part is I already went through strength of record, but you get to the rest of it, and they just never did what we hoped they would do as the College Football Playoff Committee, and maybe we had too much faith.
No, it's not what we hoped they would do. It's what they fucking said they would do.
But you get to other parts, which is you would think at the most base level, and this is using ESPN strength of schedule, and there are other strength of schedule metrics you can utilize that basically tell you the same thing. Of course, everything's going to have some sort of bias built into it. It's how it has to work. But you look at teams that have the same record, and you look at their strength of schedule, and you would think that should matter to a certain extent. Vanderbilt sitting with the number 22 strength of schedule in the country. Notre Dame at 42. Miami at 44. And granted, Utah did drop, but Utah at 57. And it's just, that should matter. That should factor in. BYU at 35. These are significantly different difficulties of schedule. And my issue is if Texas can jump Vanderbilt, and Texas does have the 8th ranked strength of schedule in the country, if they can jump Vanderbilt because they have one more loss, who, by the way, they lost to a 4-8 Florida Gator team. I mean, take that in for a second. All the arguments you've seen, they lost to a 4-8 Florida Gator team. This ain't about Ohio State. It's about losing to 4-8 Florida.
Mm-hmm.
You take that into account. Why did Texas only jump Vanderbilt? If that's the logic you're going to utilize, that they played a hell of a strong schedule and they're sitting at 9-3, why didn't they jump 42nd ranked strength of schedule Notre Dame? Why didn't they jump 44th strength of schedule ranked Miami? Because guess what? Miami and Notre Dame both have way bigger brands than Vanderbilt. And that logo means a little something more. So they can just utilize this, oh, we ranked them in the same pool of teams. Well, Miami and Notre Dame apparently aren't being evaluated in the same pool of teams because that head-to-head hasn't mattered.
Not yet.
There is no logic. All right, that's enough of that rant because we're just running in circles at this point. But I can't find coherent logic in these rankings. I don't think anybody can. I just want 1/2 metrics or things they are looking at that rank these teams. And maybe you can use a holistic approach, but you have to have some strain of logic that runs through the rest of these teams. And they punished, and this was the 4-team playoff era, but they punished Florida State for losing their quarterback, but don't punish Ole Miss for losing their head coach. Whatever. Let's get next up. We're going to go into the TDR cocktail break. Then we are going to have the Vanderbilt Tennessee game recap, as well as me and Trevor's 3 key takeaways. What do you got?
Also, breaking news happened 8 minutes ago. Jalen Carey misses game-winning buzzer beater. Vols lose. Terrible week to be an offensive line.
That's terrible. So we're going to, after the TDR cocktail break, we're going to get into the Vanderbilt Tennessee game recap. Did not expect that to be in segment 2, but we've already gone about an hour in segment 1. Then we're going to get into Diego Pavia's Heisman campaign. Then we're going to talk a little basketball. Then we're going to get into premium message board questions. So everybody out there, grab yourself a delicious hot or cold beverage, and we will be back right after the TDR cocktail break. Welcome back from the TDR Cocktail Break, and welcome back into episode 344 of the Dore Report. We have a part of the podcast I expected to be in segment 1, but it is in segment 2 now. We're going to recap Vanderbilt's 45-24 victory over the Tennessee Volunteers, moving Vanderbilt to 10-2 for the first 10-win season in program history. We don't have to get too into detail on a lot of these things right now, but because I'm sure we will hit on them in our 3 key takeaways from the game, and then we can touch on whatever we miss. After that, tie ball game going into halftime, 21-21. Vanderbilt did not play clean football in the first half. Diego Pavia had 2 turnovers, 2 interceptions, kind of like you saw in the Alabama game, just trying to force things, trying to do a little too much. Settled in after the halftime adjustments, and Vanderbilt outscored Tennessee 23-3 in the second half, beating Tennessee by a final score of 45-24. Coming to fruition, a lot of things Diego Pavia said before the season. A great performance out of Vanderbilt, a resilient performance out of Vanderbilt. It was a pleasure being in Neyland Stadium and seeing that unfold in front of my eyes. A little bit of a more dead environment. It wasn't a bad environment, a little more dead environment than I'm used to seeing in Neyland.
I wanted to talk about that.
Kind of an insult and a compliment that I've seen it way better before. It was kind of odd. It wasn't that it was empty. It was packed out for sure.
It was a sellout, yeah.
It was just a little or quite a bit less into it than I've seen Neyland Stadium in the past. Definitely noisy, I'm not going to lie, but not as intimidating or noisy as it has been in the past. I did have a 70-year-old man who was about 100 pounds overweight tell me he was going to beat my ass because I was cheering after a Cedric Alexander touchdown. I'm going to be honest, I know people don't believe me, but I promise you, I wasn't saying anything. I was just cheering for a Cedric Alexander touchdown, and he turned around and said to me and pointed at me, even though I was with Miller McKee, Chef Miller. I have a very punchable face. I've acknowledged that at this point. Maybe a top 5 punchable face in the entire world. He turned around to me and said, "You don't do that shit here. Shut up." And I, of course, then immediately hit the tongue out. And that resulted in him immediately going crazy and yelling at me and told me he was going to beat my ass. And then I immediately was like, I guarantee you're not going to beat my ass. You're 100 pounds overweight, completely bald, nice cul-de-sac haircut. I will push you, and you will actually die. And then the funnier part, which actually got the section that I was in section Z13, a little bit on my side. Even Tennessee fans were laughing. That's how I knew I won the altercation. Is this kind of dude, more in his mid-30s, bigger country boy, not like giant or anything, also about 60 pounds overweight, but a dude in his mid-30s. And he turns around and is like, "I'll tell you what, I'll beat your ass." And I said, "All right, you might beat my ass, but that guy's not going to beat my ass." And everybody around me started laughing. And that kind of diffused the situation with the rest of the Tennessee fans, really pissed both of them off. And then I went to the bathroom at one point, which, by the way, I wanted to get to this early before we get to the game. Tennessee still has troughs.
Yes, they do.
I pitched to Vanderbilt, put in troughs, because I have not pissed in a trough in a while. Boy, does that line move a lot quicker than urinals.
Very efficient. Very efficient. Yeah.
So shout out to Neyland on that small front. The trough's way quicker. But as I was coming back from my pee break, the guy grabbed my arm as I was walking up the stairs, and I kind of shook away. And he was like, "You're going to see me after the game. You come down here and see me after the game." And I was like, "I'm not fucking getting arrested in Knoxville, but I'll come see you after the game." Well, I looked down, about 5 minutes left on the clock, and guess who had left the stadium? The fat 74-year-old man who said he was going to beat my ass, which he was not going to.
Yeah.
That was the most into it that I saw. Overall, the noise in Neyland wasn't what I expected.
Very mid environment.
Yeah. And
very mid
I've
environment.
been there with much better environments in Neyland. That's like, I'm not just trying to shit on Tennessee, which I kind of am, but that game in particular, I just expected a little bit more of a raucous environment. Granted, a lot of the students were on Thanksgiving break, but still.
Well, still, even then, like, it was a sold-out crowd. Like, there wasn't an empty seat in the stadium. And it was, like you said, I was actually really disappointed. I was like, man, this crowd kind of sucks. Like, on third down, big down, like, I looked over in the end zones and people were still sitting. And I was like, man, this is, like, really disappointing. Like, the whole Nealand effect. And I'm like, man, this isn't like really an intimidating environment. Like I see why you guys were 1-2 at home, now 1-3 at home. Yeah, not a super impressive environment. I will say I did not have any negative interaction with Tennessee fans. It's also because I stood on business. I did get chirped, but here's my thing. I love chirping. And I think you can attest to this too. Maybe you have some similar experience. People will chirp at you, and it's like when people chirp at you, they've been eyeballing you for a minute, and they've got like a 5-minute premeditated response. But when you say something back, there's a look in their eyes. You know what I mean? Like they didn't expect you to say something back, and now they're put on the spot, and their brain starts working, and they just kind of look at you for a minute. I had a couple of those. I did have a Tennessee fan come up to me and go, "Are you that guy from Twitter?" And in that moment, I was like,
Oh no.
I go, I am. Hack Squat Jim Duggan. And in that moment, I was like, okay, I think I know where this is going. I kind of puffed out my chest, like broadened my shoulders a little bit. And he goes, "Hey, I just want to say I love your Twitter, man." And I was like, oh, thank you. I appreciate it.
By the way, the rest of the Tennessee fans around me had a great time. Great interactions with the dudes behind us that were kind of younger guys, and great interactions with the guys in front of us. Outside of that, it was a good time up in Knoxville, as good as the time as you can have, obviously, with the victory. Vanderbilt beating Tennessee 45-24 and kind of clearing out Neyland Stadium. Do you want to run through the stats, or do you want to get to our 3 key takeaways and then go through the
Run
stats?
through the stats. It's the Tennessee
Should I do
game.
box score, or should I do team stats?
All.
Okay.
Dude, come on, dude. This is the first Vanderbilt football victory over Tennessee in the history of TDR.
You're right.
Dude, go full out.
So Diego Pavia, not his most efficient passing performance, but still a really good QBR, a 92.8 QBR. Diego Pavia was 18 of 28 for 268 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions, both coming in the first half. Running the football, Vanderbilt was absolutely dominant. 37 carries as a team, 314 yards, 5 touchdowns running the football. Diego Pavia accounted for 20 carries, 165 yards, and a touchdown. Cedric Alexander was outstanding. 10 carries for 115 yards, 3 touchdowns. MK Young, 4 carries, 15 yards, and a touchdown. Catching the football, Junior Sherrill had a good game. Troy Richardson had a good game. Junior Sherrill, 3 catches, 76 yards. Troy Richardson, 6 for 75, 1 touchdown. Eli Stowers, 5 catches for 64 yards. MK Young, 2 for 39. Barnett, 1 for 6. Richie, 1 for 5. Cedric Alexander, also somehow, according to ESPN, has no catches for 3 yards. Kind of an impressive stat line, if I have to say. Joey Aguilar had a pretty good statistical performance.
I know what that was. It was the fumble that he recovered for 3 yards.
You're right.
That's what it is.
That's absolutely what it was. Joey Aguilar, 29 of 44, 299 yards, 1 touchdown, to 65.6 QBR. Tennessee really struggled to run the football. 31 carries as a team for 83 yards, 2.7 yards per carry, 2 touchdowns. Granted, some of that is due to sacks. Deshaun Bishop, 20 carries for 97 yards, 2 touchdowns. Chris Brazel, 6 catches, 91 yards, and a touchdown. 52 of those yards coming on 1 touchdown reception. Mike Matthews had a really bad drop in the red zone. 6 catches for 58 yards. Braylon Staley, 6 catches for 35 yards. That's all I'm going to get to on stats. Vanderbilt had 4 sacks as a team. Tennessee had 1 sack as a team. All right. That is the very quick stat rundown. Trevor, you want to jump into our 3 key takeaways from the game, or you got some general thoughts?
No, I'll get to my general thoughts and the key takeaways, and I'm sure we'll get into more general thoughts with the Q&A. I do want to ask you, though. I know we're about to do the 3 key takeaways. However, I know both of us probably have Diego Pavia on our list. Is he on your list? Okay, all right. Well, I was going to say then, do we just want to go ahead and hash it out right then and there? But okay, dive right in, brother.
All right, I will go first to keep the good vibes going as we've gone in this order. So I wrote my key takeaways article. You can find it on doreport.com if you're subscribed to a premium subscription. But something I left out that I wish I would have left in. This is my key takeaway number 1 from the game. Vanderbilt won the middle 8. Times when Vanderbilt has won games, and especially when they've dominated games, Vanderbilt has won the middle 8. Vanderbilt scored with, I believe, about 12 seconds left on the clock at the end of the first half after they forced a Tennessee punt on 5 plays. Then Vanderbilt gets the ball back, 3-minute, 12-second drive, scores a touchdown, ties it up 21-21, really drains the energy and momentum out of Neyland. Vanderbilt gets the first half kickoff, immediately goes on an 11-play, 75-yard touchdown drive that takes off 6.5 minutes off the clock. Goes up 28-21, immediately forces a 3-and-out, gets the football back, goes into another drive. Vanderbilt won the halftime adjustments and won the middle 8. So that was my key takeaway number 1 from the game is Vanderbilt got back to what they do best, winning the middle 8.
Great key takeaway. My key takeaway number 1 is, and this falls on me as well, I think we sold on the Vanderbilt defense a little bit too early. I know they had a couple of stretches, especially the Auburn game, to where like they did not play well. What exactly was that? Could you make the argument they were fatigued? I think that's a pretty good argument considering how they've looked once they got that bye week. There was a lot of conjecture, even amongst ourselves. Like we said on this pod, it's going to be a race to 40. It's going to be a high-scoring game. We both predicted high-scoring games. This Vanderbilt defense locked down a really, really, really elite Tennessee offense. If it wasn't for two turnovers by Diego, they got 14 points off 2 turnovers. You take away those, that score is definitely going to be much more spread apart than it was even with the final. I thought Vanderbilt did a really, really, really good job on defense, locking down really, really, really good, talented wide receivers. I thought they got good pressure on Joey Aguilar. I thought they were sensational in the run game. Even the I apologize, I'm about to cough. Actually, I didn't even cough. I think even if you want to look at the one touchdown to Chris Brazzell, the bomb over Colby Taylor, I feel like Colby Taylor, and this could be my fault as well from like the attitude I had last year, is sort of been used as a scapegoat, and people are like, man, he talks so much, and he does talk. And I'll be honest, I know that can throw people off and like put a bad taste in people's mouth. I love that shit. I'm going to be honest. I don't give a rip that he argues in jaws with the ref and like sometimes gets a 15-yard on sportsmanlike. I don't give a shit. I love that. I want my cornerbacks to be like that. That play right there, I went back and watched it, guys. I'm not entirely sure that's Colby Taylor's fault. Tennessee was running that hurry-up offense, and the Vanderbilt entire defense, it wasn't just Colby Taylor, the entire defense was looking over at the sideline for a play. Could you make the argument that Colby Taylor should be in better position? Yeah, absolutely. But I'm not going to chalk that one bomb up to Colby Taylor or to C.J. Hurd being out of position necessarily. I think that was just Tennessee capitalizing on hurry-up. But I say that to put it into context. Taking that one play into consideration, this Vanderbilt defense was locked down.
I'm glad that was yours because it'll just lead into mine. I only have 3 written down, so if you take mine, then you take mine. My second key takeaway is the second half defense.
Yeah.
And what they did was phenomenal against Tennessee. And exactly what you said. I don't think that was on Colby Taylor. I think that was a lack of sideline communication with the proper timing. The second half defense was incredible. There are flaws in this Tennessee football team, and there's a reason that they're 8-4 and currently ranked outside of the college football playoff top 25. But this Tennessee offense is not the reason for that. This Tennessee offense was one of the most efficient in the country the entire year. Joey Aguilar performed tremendously better than I expected the entire season. Vanderbilt holding Tennessee to their second lowest scoring output of the entire season outside of Alabama. Phenomenal job by Steve Gregory. Everybody in that defense, Randon Fontenette, Colby Taylor, Langston Patterson, Brian Longwell, Corday Sidnor, Linus Zunk. There are so many names. Zaylen Wood.
Singh had a tackle for loss.
So many guys that I want to shout out here. The second half defense was incredible. And just as much as the offense moved the ball as I expected them to, the defense played better than I expected them to play, specifically in the second half, and bouncing back with second half adjustments. The defense the last couple of weeks has really shown me something. Maybe the bye week is exactly what they needed. So incredible job by the defense in the second half. That's nothing to scoff at, holding Tennessee to 24 points. Their second lowest scoring output was 20 points against Alabama. So shout out to this defense and Steve Gregory in the second half.
Yeah, I feel like also I'm about to take one of your key takeaways, but it's like so in your face that it's hard not to use it. This offensive line, did I take it?
Kind of.
Okay. I said it earlier in the season. They had a couple of bad games, and I sort of went back on it. This offensive line is one of the best in the nation, guys. This offensive line is deserving of the Joe Moore Award. This offensive line and the way they keep the pocket clean for Diego Pavia and the way they open up running lanes for Diego Pavia and for this running back group is something that we've never seen out of a Vanderbilt offensive line ever. I've certainly never seen it out of my lifetime, and I've seen probably some of the better Vanderbilt offensive lines. So a lot of the old heads, shout out to the old heads, we love you. I sure as hell know you haven't seen a Vanderbilt offensive line this good in your entire life. They deserve so much credit. And man, just whenever you put it into context too, it's not a makeshift offensive line because they're all very talented guys who have a lot of snaps under their belt before they came to Vanderbilt. But an offensive line that had never played football together before up until fall camp. Just a tremendous job by this offensive line, not just in this game, but all season long, and a tremendous job by Coach Chris Klanakis. This offensive line deserves all the praise and all the credit, and they should win the Joe Moore Award.
So my third key takeaway, I'm glad you just fully shouted out the O-line because this is partially because of the O-line. My third key takeaway is just run, Doors, run. Because I had a key takeaway last week after the Kentucky game that was air raid Commodores. Vanderbilt got back to who they are to an extent, and I think this offense is dynamic and can do it either way. But it's partially, obviously, majority because the offensive line, especially in that second half, was just opening up gaping holes. And that's everybody from the offensive line to tight ends to fullbacks to other running backs that are blocking. But generally, I really want to shout out Cedric Alexander.
Yes,
I think he had a hell of a game. The offensive line can do what they do, but you have to read those blocking lanes and hit them with the right pace. Cedric Alexander, this team as a whole, 37 carries, 314 yards rushing as a team. That's 8.5 yards per carry, 5 rushing touchdowns. Diego Pavia accounted for 165, but Cedric Alexander, 10 carries for 115 yards, 3 touchdowns. It's about as good of a stat line as you could possibly have as a running back.
His first 100-yard game in his career.
Really?
Yes.
I mean, just absolutely phenomenal job. I had as a key to the game, keep going with what is working or something along those lines from Tim Beck in this offense. They did. Tennessee adjusted a little bit to the success of Vanderbilt's passing attack, and they were clearly taking away the passing attack from Vanderbilt and Diego Pavia. And Vanderbilt said, all right, we're going to run it down your throat then. And that's exactly what they did. So offensive line, running backs, tight ends, fullbacks, other running backs doing blocking. That's just my third key takeaway. It's the end of the regular season. I'm just giving a lot more shout outs than anything else at this point. And I can go on a tangent later about the historic success of this season, but an incredible job by Vanderbilt running the football and establishing the run. That's something we haven't seen out of Vanderbilt the last couple of weeks, and it was a very enjoyable experience inside of Neyland Stadium watching them run the football down Tennessee's throat.
Yeah. And I think my third key takeaway, once again, very chalk, maybe the most chalk third key takeaway, and I think it'll transition well into the Heisman talk. Diego Pavia is the best quarterback in the nation. And Diego Pavia showed it once again this Saturday with what he did, not only through the air, but with his legs, his escapability, how he can read a pocket, how he can anticipate pressure, how he knows whenever to bail or when to go left, right, up the middle. His vision, some of the I think we have gotten so used to seeing him make these crazy throws and just like jumping in the air off his back foot, off kilter, making these sensational throws that we've sort of gotten used to it. And we don't realize how crazy the plays that Diego Pavia makes. Like whenever you watch him even do like a off his back foot jump pass 5 yards down the field to Cedric Alexander, you're like, oh yeah, that's just Diego Pavia. That's what he does. Nobody else in the nation can do that. Like those are tough plays with the defender barreling down on you. Diego Pavia deserves all the credit. Like you said last week, man, Diego Pavia is the greatest football player in the history of Vanderbilt. He should win the Heisman. He showed it once again this Saturday that he should win the Heisman. Shout out to Cole Kublik, the first quarterback ever, first SEC quarterback ever to have 4 straight 400-yard games. He's sensational, and he should win the Heisman.
So let's go straight into that topic.
Yeah.
Vanderbilt, of course, beat Tennessee 45-24, moved to 10-2 on the season. First 10-win season in the history of Vanderbilt football. That deserves a lot of credit. Clark Lea, Diego Pavia, every single player on this roster contributed to that. Incredible job. Let's move on to the Diego Pavia Heisman campaign that we have in front of us. I wrote down the current odds at about 4:30 p.m. According to the two books that had odds listed for the Heisman. BetMGM did not, or I could not find them. Odds per FanDuel, when I wrote these down about 4:30 p.m. Fernando Mendoza, plus 160. Diego Pavia, plus 170. Julian Sayin, plus 220. Jeremiah Love, plus 5,000. So there are three guys currently in the race for the Heisman Trophy. DraftKings, Fernando Mendoza, plus 160. Julian Sayin, plus 170. Diego Pavia, plus 190. Jeremiah Love, plus 3,000. Once again, reiterating kind of what I'm saying, this is a three-man race at this point. Diego Pavia is going to be invited to New York, and if he is not invited to New York for the Heisman Trophy presentation, it's a damn shame, and something's wrong. But Diego Pavia, worst case, will be in New York as one of the 4 Heisman finalists. Let's get to the stats of the 3 leading candidates for the Heisman Trophy. First up, Fernando Mendoza. He has 2,758 passing yards, a 72% completion percentage, 271 rushing yards, sack adjusted, and 3,029 total yards, sack adjusted. 38 total touchdowns, 5 interceptions, snaps played, 724. ESPN strength of schedule, number 45 in the country. Of course, Indiana, 12-0. Julian Sayin, of course, Ohio State, also 12-0. 3,065 passing yards, leading the nation, I believe, with a 78.9% completion percentage, 44 sack-adjusted rushing yards, 3,109 total yards sack-adjusted, 30 total touchdowns, ESPN strength of schedule 46, and snaps played 715. Diego Pavia, 3,192 passing yards, the most of any of those candidates, 71.2% completion percentage, the lowest of any of those candidates, but he's asked to do more in this offense. 907 sack-adjusted rushing yards, 4,099 total yards sack-adjusted, almost 1,000 yards more than the other candidates in front of him. 36 total touchdowns, the second most, next to 38 for Mendoza. ESPN strength of schedule, 22. By far the most difficult schedule throughout the whole season, according to ESPN. And then snaps played, 712. The least snaps played of any of those players. Of course, that's going to be adjusted in the bowl game, which is where I think these odds are slightly skewed because there's still a chance for Mendoza or Sayin to have a full Heisman moment in a championship game.
Yeah.
If Mendoza or Sayin come out and just dominate one or the other and just have the game of their life, I'm going to be honest, that player is going to win the Heisman.
Well, no, the Heisman is before the playoffs.
No, not the playoff. I mean the champion, the
Big Ten
yeah,
champion.
Big
My
Ten
apologies. Yeah,
Yeah,
you're
if
right.
if one or the other comes out and just has the game of their life
Yes,
in the Big Ten championship, I think that will lock up the Heisman for him.
Yeah.
But if it's a defensive struggle or they play kind of even, then I think Pavia has a legitimate chance to win the Heisman.
Yeah.
And at this point, Jeremiah Love, kind of like some other players in the past, is kind of the pity invite to a non-quarterback. If you're reading into the odds. So Diego Pavia has the best stats. In my opinion, he has the best storyline. He's willed his team to the most historic season in the history of their program, but it is a 10-2 season versus a 12-0 season prior to the conference championship game. So regardless, Diego Pavia is a Heisman front runner. That's not overstating things whatsoever. I've watched every single Vanderbilt game this season. I'm going to be honest. I've watched a lot of Ohio State and Indiana. I haven't watched every single second of every game. Sayin and Mendoza, specifically Mendoza is a really good player. Diego Pavia is having what you imagine as a Heisman season.
Mm-hmm.
He is the guy he's the engine of this team. I know it is different than the NFL's MVP award, which is given to the most valuable player. The Heisman Trophy is given to the most outstanding player. Still, in my opinion, Diego Pavia is the most outstanding player.
Yeah, I agree.
And we'll see. Regardless, Diego Pavia deserves an invite to New York, and it will be incredible seeing a Vanderbilt football player in that presentation and being talked about in that way.
Yeah, well, I just said I agree. I'm not even – you can't disagree with stats. Like, that's just like it's an objective, like, yeah, these guys have put up this amount of numbers. Like, you can't say, oh, I disagree with that. And if you look at the numbers and you look at the tape, the clear Heisman winner should be Diego Pavia. And there's no argument that you could give me that would say otherwise. You say, oh, well, the other two quarterback candidates have an undefeated season. Okay, well, are we now considering wins to be a quarterback stat? If we are, then we've got to change the entire criteria. If that's the case, then we need to go back and reevaluate how we've given out the Heisman every single year. Because if that's the case, Travis Hunter shouldn't have won it last year. So there's nothing else you can add. Diego Pavia is going to be in New York. Diego Pavia, in my opinion, should win the Heisman. And you brought up another good point, man. You should look at the storyline, dude. A dude from Albuquerque, New Mexico, no offers out of high school, went to a military institute, then went to New Mexico State, then came to Vanderbilt. Like the ultimate, you want to talk about underdogs and feel-good story. Like that dude who came from nowhere to win the Heisman, I mean, that's as good as it gets. That's storybook stuff right there.
Yeah, Diego Pavia has the stats. That was actually the criticism of Diego Pavia prior to the last 4 games was, yeah, he is that important. And if you watch him play, you get how important he is and how great of a player he is. But he just doesn't have the stats to compete with these other players in the Heisman race. Well, now he does.
Yeah.
So legitimately, this is about as close of a Heisman race between 3 candidates as I've seen. I don't know if I can. There probably is another year when it was like this close. Like I know there's been a lot of close 2-man races, but as far as having 3 candidates that are so close to each other, and it just depends on what metrics you value more. Like you can go back to like Matt Leinart and Vince Young. You can go back to guys like that where there's been a lot of 2-man races. Or last year with Ashton Genty and Travis Hunter, like there have been 2-man races, but this is 3 players that are so clearly out in front of the rest of the pack that it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. What date is the Heisman ceremony?
I forget, but while you're looking that up, there's another point that I want to bring up in terms of Heisman voting. I think we need to remember, too, that something else that could aid Diego Pavia in winning the Heisman is that voting is sort of based on, like, it's not exactly the same, but it's kind of like an electoral college to where you have to dominate regions. Diego Pavia being the only player representing the Southeast, Diego Pavia is probably, it's safe to assume, going to clear up the Southeast. You have 2 Big Ten, actually 3 if you consider Jeremiah Love. You have 3,
ACC.
but you have 3 players that are dominating the Midwest.
Yep.
Notre Dame, you have 3 players that are all dominating one centralized location. That's going to split up votes amongst the 3 of them. You have Diego Pavia taking the entire Southeast, presumably. What happens about the Southwest and the West Coast? Diego Pavia from Albuquerque, New Mexico, is he going to carry his hometown region as well? I think that's something else that's a fascinating tidbit that could help aid Diego Pavia in the Heisman.
So I'm seeing 2 dates or 2 times here, but December 13th is the Heisman Trophy presentation. I'm seeing both 7 p.m. Eastern and 8 p.m. Eastern. I'm not 100%, but the date is December 13th for the Heisman Trophy. So Vanderbilt fans, be on the lookout for that. I think Diego Pavia's made a very compelling case to be the Heisman Trophy winner. And it's kind of hard to disagree with that statement, that he's made a very compelling case to be the winner of the Heisman Trophy. Before we get to premium message board questions, let's very, very quickly get to some basketball that has unfolded over the last week or so. Vanderbilt won the Battle for Atlantis. That's not an easy tournament to win. It's not one of the most high profile, but it's not an easy tournament to win. Vanderbilt beat Western Kentucky in what could be considered pretty ugly game.
Yeah.
Out of Vanderbilt, not their most efficient performance. Vanderbilt, I believe, won that one 83-78. Is that the right score?
Almost blew a 15-point lead.
And then Vanderbilt went on to dominate St. Mary's, scoring the most. This is where I wasn't sure if this was an accurate post. I saw a post on Twitter that said St. Mary's hadn't allowed more than 72 points since 2022. I don't know if that's accurate, so I don't want to put that out there as a stat. But I know scoring 90-plus points on St. Mary's is unheard of.
Yeah.
And Vanderbilt went out there. The offense was efficient. Vanderbilt beat St. Mary's 96-71 in dominating fashion, getting a little revenge from the NCAA tournament last year. Vanderbilt's rankings are pretty phenomenal. currently. Vanderbilt's 8-0. Vanderbilt is now 10th in KenPom, number 17 in the AP poll. The NCAA net rankings released their first rankings of the season. Vanderbilt is 4th currently in the NCAA net ranking, setting up for a pretty incredible season out of the black and gold on the hardwood, coached by Mark Byington. Upcoming tomorrow or today, when you're listening to this, Vanderbilt will be taking on SMU at home at 8:15 p.m. Central Standard Time on SEC Network. That is the final game until the 13th of December. So a little finals break for the boys where they take on Central Arkansas on the 13th of December at 5:30 p.m. So everybody, if you're available and out there, get to Memorial Gym tomorrow/today when you're listening to this.
I will be there. Will you be there?
I think I will be there.
Hell yeah.
Right now.
TDR boys will be in the building.
Basketball is rolling. Absolutely. Let's get to premium message board questions because we have quite a few of those.
I couldn't imagine how many messages, given what has transpired this weekend and today, I can't imagine how many we have.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
Let's try to go through these as quickly as we can. We're not going to go on long rants about any of these. First up, yet another Dore lawyer. I may have my gold-colored glasses on, but if Ohio State, Indiana is a defensive slugfest, could that persuade Heisman voters to swing over to Pavia? Hashtag free Javier Pavia.
I think, yes, absolutely.
Yes.
Keep it short and sweet. Yeah, absolutely.
That's why the odds are how they are.
Yeah.
And they're so even. Is if one of those players comes out and has an incredible performance, they're going to jump up and be the favorite.
Exactly.
If neither of them comes out and differentiates themselves,
It's going to be Pavia.
Pavia is going to win. So, yeah, that's a big-time game that Vanderbilt fans should be paying attention to.
Yeah, also free our boy Javi till it's backwards.
GLH4VU says, who's got it better than us?
Nobody.
Goes on to ask, he's a lot of questions here. How soon do we retire number 2 and build the damn statue for Pavia? They should definitely retire number 2.
Yeah, immediately.
What percentage chance do you give him to win the Heisman? I mean, honestly, right now, I would literally put it at like 33%.
Yeah.
Like that's
0.3333
yeah,
repeating.
that's I think it is about as dead even of a heat between 3 players as you've ever seen.
Yeah.
Goes on to say, I know losing a conference championship game probably won't hurt anyone, but if Bama loses Georgia by, say, 14 plus, do they fall out of the college football playoff?
No, not after what you saw tonight.
Yeah, the committee adjusted, so that will not be the case. They're not going to be faced with that question, and that's why they moved Bama up over Notre Dame 100%. Goes on to say, if BYU gets bitch slapped by TTU again, do they fall out? BYU's not in right now, so
I think they fall out of the top 15.
Yeah, they're not in right now, so that's why the committee did that as well, and why BYU is number 11, because they say, hey, we didn't drop them out.
Yeah,
if they lost in the conference,
yeah, they were never in.
They were never in.
Mm-hmm.
If those two things happen and they do leave them out, are we in over Miami? Clearly, no. Clearly, no. Unfortunately,
fuck, we're not in over Texas. Apparently,
yeah, apparently not. And if Duke wins the ACC, is there any way they actually let Miami in?
No. I don't think so.
No, I don't
if
think
everything
Miami's,
else ahead of them goes chalk.
Miami's just not in.
Yeah.
Right now. I mean, they're sitting at number 12. You got to be top 10
to
be in, because you're going to give 2 spots to the 2 remaining highest ranked.
Miami's officially out with what they did to Bama tonight.
Yep. Texas Store 22. If Curtis commits on Wednesday, by the way, he has committed, should we be sending a large Vanderbilt fan contingent to Chattanooga on Thursday for his state championship? Set the standard early.
Hell yeah.
Absolutely. Vanderbilt fans should absolutely show up to that.
Yeah.
I'm not going to read this one from Blake Fromang.
Oh, God. Was this the question?
Maybe I might read it. You don't have to answer. This is from B. Fromang. Says, Trevor, Curtis enrollment is on the line. The tension in the room can be cut with a knife. He looks at you before his announcement and gets your attention. The entire room around you and Curtis goes dark. There's a spotlight on him and you, and the silence is deafening. He says, Trev, I demand a blood sacrifice. Phoebe turns red, or I do, as he points towards a Georgia hat. Phoebe appears in front of you. How do you respond?
So I have to kill Phoebe for Jared Curtis?
That's Blake's question, which thankfully Trevor does not have to do.
No,
Yeah.
I'm not. No, I'm sorry.
I think Trevor might kill himself for that to happen.
would, yes.
We're going to get demonetized on YouTube for saying that.
would. There's no circumstance in this world that I would ever kill Phoebe. If somebody was like, yo, no, for real, like if somebody was like, kill yourself or kill your cat, I'm killing myself.
We're getting if this episode has like 300 views, it's because we just said kill and yourself back to back, and the AI algorithm detected it. All right. Next up, Vandy Fan 95. Is this season just a flash in the pan, or will this success be sustainable? Curious to hear your thoughts, but for me, the long-term success feels more sustainable than I originally thought. That's a really good question.
Mhm.
Kind of what we talked about earlier. Vanderbilt is going to take a step back next year, which is very funny how the goalposts have moved, which is people making fun of Vanderbilt for, oh yeah, next year 7-5, 6-6. And I'm like, if that's your insult,
Yeah, sign me up.
But yeah, Vanderbilt, theoretically, with the commitment of Jared Curtis, is going to have a true freshman starting quarterback. They're going to be replacing their Heisman frontrunner quarterback. They're going to have some turnover on the offensive line, which they've shown they can replace in the transfer portal. But yeah, there's turnover. You're losing Cole Spence. I mean, he's a hell of a blocker, a key contributor. Vanderbilt's success, however, with Clark Lea.
Cole has another year left.
Does he?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
Awesome.
yeah, Cole. Yeah, no, he's got another year left.
But with Clark Lea locked up, the momentum you have on the recruiting front as well as in the transfer portal, what they showed they can do last year, the success feels very much more sustainable than like the James Franklin years.
Yeah. And I think just to tag along to, yes, the success is very sustainable, and you should be very, very excited with the commitment from the institution, with the commitment from Candace Sorley, with the commitment from NIL, with the commitment from facilities, with locking up Clark Lea. Yes, this is very sustainable. That this is not me gold-colored glasses. Objectively, this is sustainable.
Scott Reed, I was at the game in Knoxville. I was expecting a loud environment. I was a little disappointed. Was it just me, or was the crowd not very loud? Were the speakers muffled? Did you smell fear? Nobody even chirped at me after halftime. Give me the game day experience at the bank all day over Knoxville. Yeah, it was a little dead, more than I expected. It was still a good environment, but it was a little different than I expected.
Also, Tennessee 110% pumps in crowd noise. That's not a tinfoil. Did you see those speakers they had right by the TV microphones? They legitimately pump in crowd noise. That's something that was 110% confirmed to me. But yeah, the game day experience, yeah, I smelled fear as soon as I stepped foot into the city.
Yeah, there was some cautiousness. They were a little dead because they were fully eliminated from college football playoff contention, and it was a little bit different environment. Like Bryant Denny was way more intimidating than Nealand.
Yeah, also they knew that they were about to get B2A.
Yeah, Denver Dore says everything can seem different in retrospect, but now knowing our current college football playoff standing, what are your thoughts on Vanderbilt not running the score up on some opponents earlier in the season? One example that comes to mind is the LSU game where we kneeled the ball down the 1 yard line where we could have scored. It would have been a 2-score win, which might look different in the eyes of the committee. I absolutely understand the need to keep Pavia healthy this year, but do you think this leads us to running scores up more in the future in order to further impress the committee? Yeah, I mean, I think it plays a tiny impact, but I just
I don't.
I just think this year is where Vanderbilt started too low. It's why Vanderbilt basketball this year with their start is ranked number 17, because they started in the conversation versus last year they did not. A lot of these rankings are just where you start, and Vanderbilt had to claw themselves up from being perceived as the number 45 team in the country to trying to be perceived as a college football playoff contender. That's a long climb.
Yeah.
Versus a team like Notre Dame that's perceived as a top 5, top 10 team to start the year. To maintain that position and maintain that in the analytics is a lot easier.
Yeah.
So I don't know if the score necessarily did, but I think moving forward, Vanderbilt will be in the forefront of the minds of ranking members and voting members.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. I actually don't think running the score up would have mattered at all. I tweeted this, and I totally agree with your sentiment. Vanderbilt was doomed not in October. Vanderbilt was doomed in August and in late July because of where they started.
Yep. They would have had to go 11-1.
I'm not even sure if they went 11-1.
I mean, 11-1, they would be in. But unfortunately, they did not. If Ole Miss is in without their head coach at 11-1, Vanderbilt just 10-2 with how the season played out was not going to get you in with where they started.
Yeah, but Ole Miss, like you said, 11-1, they started high.
That's true. Red Door. How do you think we're going to stack up against other schools in the average rankings at our 4 major sports: football, basketball, women's basketball, and baseball? Finish at. Are we a jock school now? It's a hell of a time.
You can make the argument that Vanderbilt is a jock school right now.
Uh,
Vanderbilt's the hashtag everything school.
Everything school. Education and all 4 major sports are going to be ranked in the top 25.
It's so, dude, Tennessee's our little brother, and it's awesome, dude. Dude, fuck those guys.
Ezra Chris Magnon says, what the hell is going on with Mike James? Mike James is one of Vanderbilt's backup small forwards / guards. I don't know. That's a good question. I expected to see more out of him as a role player, but it seems like Chandler Bing is overtaking Mike James' role to a certain extent. And you've seen a little less out of Tyler Harris than I expected, honestly. I'm kind of curious how Mark Byington's going to manage the rotation the rest of the year. But honestly, I expected to see more Mike James than I've seen. And I really did not expect to see Chandler Bing out on the court as much as he has been.
I mean, Mike James didn't play basketball at all last year, so I'm wondering how difficult of a transition that is to go from not playing basketball at all the season before to like being thrusted fully into action. I don't know. That might play a factor.
That could. Soggy_biscuit says Jared
Hell
Curtis's cabinet guy here. Have y'all heard any Vandy players who are eager to jump into the portal? Trey Richardson has easily captured my attention, and I would hate to see him leave. Also, how much will the College Football Playoff Committee punish Ole Miss for losing their head coach and OC, enough to drop out, enough to play on the road, or just not at all to stick it to Florida State one more time? Obviously not that much. Did not factor in that heavily. I don't know about anybody jumping into the portal. I haven't heard any rumors. I would really doubt Trey Richardson's jumping into the portal, especially with Curtis coming in.
I haven't heard any names yet. However, I would say it's early. Vanderbilt this week will be having those conversations with players about their role moving forward in roster management. So I will say those talks are happening at this very moment. I would imagine we would be able to know something probably later this week, early next week.
100% agree. It's just a little too early right now, but those will be discussions we will have after the season fully ends. And honestly, just in the next couple of weeks.
Like Vanderbilt's just now having those discussions.
Unabridged. Besides Pavia, who is the most important piece to replace in the players who are out of eligibility after this year? Well, that's a loaded question because we don't 100% know who's out of eligibility after this year. Langston Patterson?
Well, I was going to say Jordan White.
Oh, so my answer to that question without that little caveated answer is a lot of the offensive line. I mean, Vanderbilt showed they can replace 4 key pieces from an offensive line. Basically 5 because Chase Mitchell changed positions, but he was playing tackle last season, now playing guard. The offensive line. Yeah. I mean, that entire offensive line, they did a great job last season replacing it. They just got to prove they can do it again. Chris Klinakis is a hell of a head coach, but replacing those guys on the offensive line, that's a major key. Yeah. Thank God for the transfer portal. That's how Vanderbilt's going to have to build their offensive line from now on. I think that's how teams in general are going to kind of build their offensive line is through the transfer portal with proven grown men coming in at 21, 22, 23. We're just trying to rebuild with 18, 19, 20-year-olds.
Dudes that already have snaps on their belt. Yep. I say Jordan White. I want to highlight him because he's gonna be an All-American. That guy's going to be a national All-American.
Yep.
And I totally agree. Like, you can rebuild through the portal. Vanderbilt's obviously shown that. But, like, can you replace an All-American? I mean, they got an All-American in the portal, so we'll see.
Yeah. It's going to be a lot of portal. That's the biggest part of this. And we'll have to see how that shakes out. And we'll continue to keep you updated when we hear anything. Dad went to Vandy, says, what's your favorite hypothetical bowl matchup for when the CFP inevitably screws us?
I would love to play Michigan. I think that would be a really, really fun bowl game.
Michigan or Miami. I don't know how the tie-ins exactly are right now. I haven't necessarily dug into that. I will dig into it. It's looking like Vandy's likely going to end up in maybe the ReliaQuest Bowl, if I had to guess.
Yeah, because the Texas bumped them out the Citrus.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm expecting them to be. But Miami, Michigan, both of those are kind of interesting matchups.
But also, too, correct me if I'm wrong, ReliaQuest and Citrus are the same stadium. They're both at Raymond James, right? No, Citrus is in Orlando.
Yeah, one of them, they're in different cities.
ReliaQuest is in Tampa. So the ReliaQuest is where the Bucks play.
Yep. I believe you're right. Next up from Pessimistic Door says, is Greg Sankey going to bat for Vandy's CFB playoff chances? What has the school done behind the curtain to advocate for the playoffs other than a Twitter graphic? I mean, they've sent they've done all they can do. They've made media appearances. They've sent things as much as they can. There's only so much a school can do.
I also
besides push out a social media campaign. I mean, what are you going to do? Bribe them to blackmail them? Like outside of that, what can you do?
I also want to push back on like the quote unquote social media campaign. That wasn't just a graphic. They mailed those to hundreds of reporters, like national reporters. Like that wasn't just a thing they put out on tweet. Like they mailed those to people that mattered. Like it was more than just a coordinated social media campaign, I would say.
Yeah,
They
there's
legitimately canvassed.
they did a great job.
Yeah,
I mean,
they did.
You can only do so much to a certain point. Now, Greg Sankey, I don't feel like he's advocated for Vanderbilt as hard as he would have advocated for a team like LSU
No, fuck Greg Sankey.
in this exact position. And it's a money thing.
Yeah.
Once again, I mean, that's all it is.
Got to milk the cash cow for all she's worth.
Exactly. It's not that complicated. I mean, we're not naive. I mean, I've watched college football, and now it's getting even more and more obvious what it is about. It's about protecting your brands, protecting the revenue, which makes sense from a business perspective. It's just frustrating. Bobby Joe says, deleted. I'll ask in the offseason. So I'll be interesting to hear what that is. Somebody said, what the fuck is wrong with you, Blake, about the Phoebe and Jared Curtis question.
Blake is my biggest op, bigger than any
That was
Tennessee
from World's
fan.
Strongest Vandy fan. JRob1742 said Blake is Valinquent, confirmed.
I bet he is.
Blake responded, what else am I supposed to ask? World's Strongest Vandy fan says, I'm seeing a lot of comparisons to 2012, and I'm gonna just list some reasons this one is different and why UT fans are so scared. Number one, UT, not a team in dysfunction. Off the field, on the field, Heupel's offense is a mess, but this is not a dysfunctional program. I kind of disagree that Heupel's offense is a mess. I think the offense is solid. I think the defense is a mess.
I would make the argument their offense is elite.
Yeah. Number two, this isn't flash in the pan success. 2012 was the first W since 2005. Since 2012, we've had periods of sustained success versus them. Number three, for what it's worth, winning wasn't expected. Domination was. In 2012, we were expecting a dogfight shootout, and we whipped them. This year, we expected a win, and then we blew it open. 4 kind of goes with 1 and 2. This was a battle of two programs and their identities, one of which appears to be rising and the other has stagnated. Heupel and Lee are both in year 5. Crazy they got hired in the same year, ain't it? This isn't James Franklin in year 2 versus lame duck Dooley or Mason putting Brady Hoke out to pasture. Brady Hoke? That was Butch Jones. That just threw me off. They've both seen a full cycle +1 class, which hasn't been able to be said about the head coaches on both sidelines since 2008. This was the peak of what have you built and does it have staying power?
I think Brady Hoke was our OC back then.
Okay.
If my memory serves me correctly.
I was just like, that was Brady Hoke's never been
because he went from Michigan to Tennessee.
Well, he was just talking about head coaches.
Yeah.
And I was like, he hasn't been a head coach. What is that? Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, I kind of agreed that the difference you're seeing, and this is across the SEC, this is not just Tennessee fans. Like, you're going to see Georgia fans in your mentions talking about stuff because they're mad they lost their 5-star quarterback. Like, they can cope however they want to cope, which is going to be insulting Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
But they would rather have Jared Curtis than whoever else they're going to replace him with in the class.
Yeah.
And that's the difference.
Which is going to be nobody.
Vanderbilt's not just flipping a 3-star from this other program or even a 4-star. This is their jewel of the Georgia recruiting class. And it's now the jewel of Vanderbilt's recruiting class. So take the hate as a compliment.
Yes.
There is nothing that pisses or used to piss me off more. That's a strong statement, but nothing. This is like the subtle disrespect of low expectations that I always talked about, is when opposing fans would say, well, outside of when they're playing Team X, who's my team, I root for Vanderbilt. Screw that. I want them to root against Vanderbilt.
Yeah, I want you to hate Vanderbilt.
You're feeling that, and it's slowly starting to turn, and that doesn't turn over in a 2-year period, but it's turning quickly. I mean, you're feeling the shakeup here. That's what you want. Next up, World's Strongest Vandy fan says, why do I have a feeling this is going to set the beefy record based on today's events? It might be setting a beefy record. We'll see.
Big, beefy, beautiful.
Chester Copperpot 1 says, Trevor, did you enjoy our loving embrace outside of Neyland on Saturday night as much as I did?
Oh, dude, we had the most Man on man, beautiful embrace ever. Speaking of man on man, Will knows this, but on the Vols message board at our parent publisher, they're posting AI deepfakes of Will and I making out.
His lips are so supple.
Well, joke's on you, Vol fans. Those aren't AI deepfakes. That's real. Yes, don't. Whenever you look at my arm and you see that my tattoos are all blotched out, that's not AI. That's just bad lighting.
That's
We
the
are
move.
making out.
That's
in
the
those
quickness
photos.
of the passion. We kiss at the beginning, middle, and end
That's
of
how
every episode.
furiously I locked onto his lips. Nothing makes those people. I can't tell you how many times I've been called like a gay slur or like a homophobic slur, and the way to combat that isn't to like make a joke back. Is to embrace and be like, yeah, dude, I love making out with my homies. I love doing gay stuff with my dude friends. It's awesome. Then whenever you do that, they're like, shit, I don't know what to say.
This guy's a real sicko.
Yeah. Like I got tweeted at yesterday. So I was like, oh, no, I'm not this. He's like, oh, well, you're a real cocksucker, aren't you? I'm like, damn straight, I'm a cocksucker. And he just didn't respond.
Dude, there are still people replying to my tweet, which I was hoping would happen with my tweet that said 21-point victory on the road over Tennessee meant absolutely nothing to the committee. Just combining every fan base to say, well, yeah, Tennessee sucks. They're all falling into my master plan, and it's beautiful. That's the fun part about kind of tweeting and different things is really going after that like 85 IQ mark of Twitter accounts where it's like they can't understand what the master plan is.
No.
Next one from Who You With VU. Losing the entire O-line is a big deal. What backups currently on the team could slide into a starting role next season?
Well, I think with the guys that you got in the portal and that are currently backups, I think there might be an idea that if I don't want to say you miss on targets in the portal, but you have guys who have been in the system for a year that you have groomed to sort of take over those spots. It's similar to what they did with Cade McConnell this year. Cade McConnell, they got in the portal. He sat last year, didn't play any snaps except for whenever Gunnar Hansen got hurt and he was put in tackle for that Tennessee game. Cade McConnell had the opportunity to sit and learn the scheme, and he got his time to shine all this season long. It has been nothing short of sensational. I think that might be maybe an idea of what they're doing with Porsche and Givens, possibly. However, just with the sheer number, you're going to have to get some more guys in the portal.
Yeah. I mean, and Vanderbilt did that last year. That was a huge concern going into this season. Yeah. The offensive line was better. Vanderbilt's going to have to get guys in the portal. And if Vanderbilt doesn't, don't worry. We're going to be quite critical on the podcast if they're unable to land offensive linemen in the portal. But I'm not really that concerned about that because they've shown they can do it and build a successful offensive line with pieces out of the portal.
Yeah. He
goes on to say, Who You With VU goes on to say, is there any danger of losing any starting wide receivers, running backs, tight ends to the portal? Starting, no. If I had to guess, zero insight, I think AJ Newberry is probably going into the portal. If I had to completely guess, this is not inside information. But I kind of doubt that you're going to lose MK Young or Cedric Alexander because they're both going to be on the field consistently. I'd be kind of surprised if Sherrill or Richardson go into the portal. You don't know at this point. You're kind of putting your hand over your mouth.
Yeah, you don't know at this point.
At this point, we don't know. Also, F the Vols and that fat candy-chewing, unshaven, pancake-scented lard ass of a coach.
Hell yeah, dude.
And
fuck
the fan
Tennessee.
base, as this applies to both. All right, Who You With VU's fired up. Love to see that. GLH4VU asks, do we think Georgia leaked the Curtis flip? I don't even think that's thinking. Yes. That's who leaked it to Steve Wiltfong. 100%. That's what he said. Am I wrong?
No, you're not wrong.
Yeah. So, yeah, Georgia obviously did. Vandy Fan 95 said, would you rather, number one, Pavia wins the Heisman, 2, Vandy gets into the CFP but loses the first game? I would rather get in the CFP if we're choosing either, but Pavia winning the Heisman would be a hell of a consolation prize.
I'm right there with you. I'd rather make the playoff, but if we don't make the playoff and he wins the Heisman, then you're not going to hear any complaints out of me. You're not going to hear any complaints out of me if he loses the Heisman.
Next up is a basketball question from Deriv1. It says, for basketball, can you explain the metrics used for the NCAA net rankings? I see we are ranked 4th there, but also not seeing blue blood names like UNC ranked 26th versus AP poll and ranked 26th versus AP poll at 16th. I don't know. I do know the metrics. I just got to refresh on them because we went through that last year at one point.
They use quads.
Yeah,
They use quad driven victories.
You're just early in the year, and Vanderbilt's beaten quite a few teams that are right on that edge of like a Q1, Q2, and that will adjust throughout the year. I mean, I'm going to be honest. Vanderbilt hasn't had a complete cupcake schedule, but it has not been a difficult schedule so far.
And to remember for the net that it's fluid. So it's like you hit on it, changes week to week. Teams that are quad 1 wins right now could eventually not be quad 1 wins.
Yeah, I mean, Vanderbilt's
so
sitting right in the middle of the country, right in the middle, because remember, there are a lot more D1 college basketball teams than FBS college football teams. Vanderbilt sitting at about 185th in the country in strength of schedule. So they've not played a strong schedule. They haven't played an exceptionally weak schedule after the battle for Atlantis, because remember, they're about 320 something teams. 300. What is it? 320 or 360?
I think it's 360.
I think you're right.
Well, also too with net, like it takes in like
there are 365 Division I college basketball teams. Vanderbilt sitting at 185th right now in the Ken Palm strength of schedule.
Yeah, but it takes into like so. For example, Vanderbilt, if you look at Evan Maya, is number 4 in the nation, number 1 in the SEC. In terms of SEC, they have the best offensive defensive Bayesian rate, which is like a fancy like Bayesian statistical formula. They've turned it into a basketball metric now. But safe to say, all that means is they're really, really, really good on offensive defense.
Yeah, according to Ken Palm, Vanderbilt has the number 4 adjusted offensive efficiency rate, and number 25 adjusted defensive efficiency rate. So Vanderbilt's just played damn good so far. With victories over teams ranked 45th, 35th, and 59th in Ken Palm. Those are their big wins. Let's get to the next questions here. I have so many tabs open. Next up, unabridged. How lucky are we to have Alex Scoop God Kerbigov on the board?
Blessed. Alex has done, and I don't want to take away from Will whatsoever, because if you guys saw the amount of stuff that Will not only does like on the pod, but behind the scenes, you would legitimately shit your pants. And so this is to take nothing away from Will. Alex and this is also to take nothing away from the other members of TDR. Please hear what I say. Alex Kerbigov has done more for the notoriety and like, what's the other word? Not success, but relevance of TDR than I think I've done in my 3 years of being on the pod. Like what he's done with the scoops and the insight that he's provided on the board has provided more value than I think I've provided in 3 years.
He's legitimized TDR on like a scale.
Yes,
if you have been on the board, TDR started out as we signed with Rivals at the beginning of this year before they were acquired by On3. There's a lot of questions of like, what insights are these guys actually going to bring besides an entertaining podcast and kind of their insights into the game watching as fans. And I think that's changed dramatically in large part due to, I think we did a great job during fall camp. And I think Alex has been a huge contributor to that as well. Maybe the most major contributor with his inside scoops. I mean, he has been on top of the 2 biggest stories in Vanderbilt athletics history. And he's been on top of those ahead of anyone else. So we are very blessed to have Alex Scoop God. Very blessed.
Get Scooped, bitches.
JRob1742 says, does it suck to be a Tennessee Volunteer?
I said it sucks to be a Tennessee Vol. I said it sucks to be a Tennessee Vol.
All right, next up, last question. Adam Baum 1987 says, non-serious question here. If we don't retire 2 after the season and Curtis wears it and it becomes another great like Heisman winner Pavia, who gets the claim to be the best 2? Maybe that could just be a legendary number in Vanderbilt. But I mean, if Curtis wants it, I think Pavia has a decent relationship with Curtis, I think in some capacity.
I think if Curtis wants it, Pavia's got to bless him and be like, yeah, you can wear that number. Do you know what I mean?
And hopefully he'll do a better job than Abdul Carter. of blessing that number when Lawrence Taylor gave him
Oh,
permission.
God, yeah.
Um,
Jeez.
But yeah, I really do think I'm actually not a big fan of retiring numbers in college. I'm a big fan of like putting a ring of honor, but in college it's so different than the pros. But if there's ever a number that should be retired, it's number 2 and number 87.
87.
Those
yeah.
two numbers should be retired.
Especially too with like wide receivers don't wear 87
Yep.
anymore with the new like. So it's not like you're taking away a precious jersey spot. You know what I mean? Yeah, retire 87.
Yep. So that is all of our premium message board questions. Thank you to everybody that posted some. There were a few more replies under there that were not actual questions, just replies to other questions, answering them themselves. So this has been a very beefy episode. Trevor, you have anything you want to add on to the end of this one?
Sucks to be a Tennessee Vol, baby. What up, little bro?
45-24.
You're my little bro now, dude.
For myself, Will Byrum, and my co-host Trevor Hulan, and our producer Phoebe, who's been very involved, this has been episode 344 of the Dore Report, powered by 615 Collectibles.